broadcasting live 4 days a week worldwide
from the sunny beaches of Southern California.
This is ExtremeHealthRadio.com.
Hi, this is Dr. Ed Group from Global Healing Center. I hope you tune in and listen to Justin and Kate's Extreme Health Radio. It will transform your life, and you will get all the best health information you need.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on another show here of Extreme Health Radio. Appreciate you joining us today. It's a beautiful day here in Southern California, isn't it?
Not too shabby.
Yeah, yesterday was cold, wasn't it?
A little chilly for us, but not compared to the rest of the United States.
It dropped down to 60 yesterday. But that's nothing compared to Florida, where our guest is from today.
Right.
That's a little different.
Where we have had the pleasure of visiting a lot lately,
That's right. We had yesterday's, or our last guest, Ed McCabe from Florida. And then we have another guest from Florida. We've been going to Florida this whole winter, it seems.
Yes.
Crazy, right?
Yes.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is episode number 203, and we have got a great guest for you today. We're really excited to have Dr. Alex Volinsky on the show today. We're going to be talking about none other than ropeworms.
Ooh.
And it's going to be a good show.
Yes.
Really excited about enemas and all kinds of crazy things. So this is going to be a great show. We'll introduce him in just a moment. Like I said, this is episode 203, and this is Wednesday, February 12th. Is that right?
Correct.
2014. And what else to get to? If you'd like to follow our show on Facebook, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/Facebook and click the like button. And there's lots of different ways to join the show as well. You could listen live at extremehealthradio.com/live. And you can enter the chat room there and ask your questions that way to our guests. You can send an email in to Justin at extremehealthradio.com.
Or Kate at extremehealthradio.com.
And you can send a voicemail. We have a little voicemail tab on our website. So there's lots of different ways for you to get your questions in and interact with the guests and be on the show. So we highly encourage you guys to do that. If you'd like to support our show, this is the 203rd. Is that right? 203rd show?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
All of our shows are completely free for all of you guys. And we do accept donations, or if you want to go to something like Amazon, anytime you go there and make a purchase, if you go to extremehealthradio.com/Amazon, that will help support us. We'll get a little commission, and that will be a great way to support us. You can do that every time you go to Amazon. And we have some great guests coming up. We just had Ed McCabe, right, from Florida, talking about oxygen. And coming up, I think tomorrow, we have Donna Gates. We have Dr. Richard Massey coming up. He's going to be a great guest. And then we have Andreas Kalker. He does MMS.
Right.
And all kinds of stuff. We've got a really great...
Got a good lineup coming up.
I know, right?
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's awesome. So today we have Professor Alex Volinsky. And like I said before, he's from Florida. And he's a PhD associate professor at the University of South Florida, Department of Mechanical Engineering. And he lost over 80 pounds. And he's got really into this ropeworm business. I'm not sure how, so we're going to ask him about that. And he authored over 150 scientific papers, and he's been working with over 80 people or so who's contacted him regarding this whole ropeworm situation. Is that what you call it, situation?
I would call it a situation. And I have to say, we have never seen, you and I last night, our reactions to some of the videos we were watching about this ropeworm situation. It's pretty mind-blowing.
Oh my gosh, isn't that incredible?
If we had a recording of us reacting to some of these videos, it would have been really funny to play.
Oh my gosh, we'll put a link to his YouTube channel on our site here, extremehealthradio.com/203. And it's been said that there's 250 million Americans are infected, I guess you would say, with ropeworms or some sort of parasitic infection. And that's about 80% of people, which is just incredible. So, Professor Alex Volinsky, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you, Justin?
Doing excellent. Although this interview is quite timely because I feel like Kate and I just came back from overseas, and I feel like we have some kind of rope worm or something in us right now.
Where did you guys go?
We went to the Caribbean.
Oh, okay.
And that tropical environment, I feel like bloated and.
Yeah, we haven't been feeling too good since we got back. Actually,
we have lots of the similar symptoms of having worms. But you had that too, didn't you?
I never felt any symptoms, but I was in general not very healthy. But before I lost all this weight.
Yeah, is that right? You lost about over 80 pounds?
Yeah, actually more. I was 247 at the top, and I think after the third water fast, I went down to 145. I'm about 180 right now.
So you said you did 3 water fasts.
Uh-huh.
Wow. So golly, that's just incredible. What made you get involved in doing all this to begin with?
It was actually not my mind. It was my body. My body stopped eating. I believe in combining several methods together. So I had some experience with hydrogen peroxide, and I read a lot of books about hydrogen peroxide. And I saw a YouTube video from Dr. Mercola about putting hydrogen peroxide in the ear. So I was kind of skeptical about that. But then I tried it, and I had the best night's sleep. And that was when I was about close to 250 pounds.
Oh, my gosh.
So then I read some books out of Russia that actually go into the science of hydrogen peroxide use. And, one thing leads to the other. I started to read different books, and I learned about a zapper, which is a device that outputs the voltage onto the skin with a positive offset. And there are certain instructions that you're supposed to follow to do a 20-minute break between 7-minute sessions. And I kind of didn't follow that. I went into the sauna and I stuck the electrodes underneath my armpits, and I sat there for maybe an hour or so. And I got very, very sick. I got bronchitis and coughing as a result of that. And then my body just stopped eating. I stopped eating food altogether, was just drinking water.
Wow.
And so I learned about the health benefits of fasting and cleansing after the fact.
So were you just kind of you decided to do this because you're a little bit overweight and you wanted to lose some weight, and you kind of just
No, I had no intention of losing any weight. It kind of started with hydrogen peroxide. Then I learned about the zapper, and I figured I'll give it a try. And then I tried to combine the sauna and the zapper at the same time, and I did not follow the instructions. I just sat there for about an hour.
Wow.
And that's how I learned that you cannot really do the detox too fast. You're gonna get sick.
So what was the method behind the hydrogen peroxide in the ear? Did you do like a 35% or 3%?
No. Well, if you put anything more than 10% into the body, you're gonna injure yourself and possibly die. The 35% is used as it's a food grade hydrogen peroxide, so it doesn't have any additive to stabilize the molecule. I did purchase 35%, but you got to do drops.
Right.
Initially, I started with just 3% hydrogen peroxide, and I put a little Q-tip into my ear, and it started to sizzle. There's an interesting sensation that you would feel. And my primary research is in materials and in corrosion, so I know how corrosive hydrogen peroxide is because of the extra oxygen. And I was amazed to see the results. So it kind of changed the terrain of whatever bacteria I have, like everybody else has certain things that live in them. And oxidizing the body just changes that completely, and you come to a different equilibrium state, more or less.
Do you think there's a association maybe with the bronchitis that you had and worms?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
Absolutely. And bronchitis is just a symptom. It could be caused by many different reasons why you would be coughing. And my latest thoughts on that is basically the drainage. The body has to drain properly. And if the drainage is blocked somewhere, you're going to get a certain condition. So if you unblock the drainage, and people do it by different ways, so cleansing is one, for example.
Wow. And so how many times did you do the combination of the zapper? Because you said the first time you felt really sick, the zapper and the sauna together.
I do it all the time now, actually. Every time I go to the sauna, I have a special zapper for that, which is, it's okay to take into the sauna. And I have it in my car, so, many times if you combine two different methods or two different effects, you get a little boost.
Interesting.
So you would recommend that to people then if they don't feel sick and they kind of ease their way into it?
I mean, people should use their brain first and kind of try it out first following the procedure or whatever is recommended. And then you can try to experiment, because I'm an experimentalist and that's what I did, and I was rewarded for that.
Wow, so interesting. And so the zapper, we have a couple of zappers too. We use
You're
them
wearing yours right now, actually, during every show.
You just reminded me when you said zapper. It's sitting right here, so I put it on. But are these things, you really like them? Or I guess they vary in strength and what brands you get and that kind of thing, right?
Like many times people don't quite understand the mechanism, so there's several explanations about how that actually works. I mean, you know what it does. It outputs the voltage to the skin, and it kind of pumps your body with electrons. And I think the important thing is the positive offset, meaning that you are not taking any electrons from the body. You just so the voltage is varied between 1/4 volt and 5 volts with a certain frequency. And some people say the frequencies matter because everything has a resonance frequency. It does have an effect on the body. If you keep it for too long, you can have a physical burn. I burned my skin doing that.
Oh, did you really?
Right. That's what I think Hulda Clark wrote about that in her books. If you do any kind of radio frequency thing with the skin, eventually it's going to burn. So
we do have to be a little bit careful and use our brains, like you said, about how we're using these things.
You have to, you have to use your brain, and it does affect the body. How exactly? There's been some experimentation where if you hit the resonance frequency, then certain bacteria and other things they just disintegrate mechanically because you vibrate them at the resonance frequency.
Do you think there's anything to the idea that where they talk about with the Hulda Clark zappers where if you start to feel that burning really quickly, it means you're more
parasitic.
Yeah, parasitic. Kind of like how iodine, people, if the iodine disperses quickly, you're deficient. Does that kind of relate to the zappers as well, you think?
I'm not really sure, Justin. All I can tell you is that the first time I started to use it, it was it did something for sure. And if it kills things, it did kill too much that the body was not able to get rid of fast enough. So that's why I got sick with bronchitis. And then I went onto the Russian forums about fasting, where I got most of the information about that. And on the 5th day of fasting, I passed out a stream of mucus about 3 feet long.
Oh my gosh, 3 feet.
So, my wife, she's a medical doctor. She's an MD and a PhD, specialized in endocrinology, and her mother is a medical doctor too. She was visiting, and they looked at that stuff, and they said, no, it's not. It doesn't look like a parasite. Huh. So, for a couple of months, I was in the dark. I didn't know. I asked people in the forums, and they suggested it's the lining of the intestines that gets stripped when you're not taking any food. But then a biologist there said that it's impossible to do that after just 5 days of not taking any food. And then one person sent me a private message saying that this is a new type of a parasite that the medical community doesn't know about, and I just didn't believe that. And then he emailed me portions of the book by Dr. Gubarev out of St. Petersburg, Russia, who has a book describing the methods of removal of these things, as well as a whole bunch of pictures, just kind of the same stuff that you posted on your site after you did a cleanse.
How do you spell his name, Professor?
Gubarev, Gubarev. He's a co-author of the 2 papers that we published on Archive in January of 2013.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, we sent you. I sent you a link last night. I'm not sure if you've been able to see that, of my wife's expilations of her enema, and
Right, I saw that, yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder, I mean, it looks kind of similar to the same stuff that I've seen with your PDF documents of the ropeworms and things.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty frightening when you start to see that stuff come out of you, isn't it?
Yeah, you said yours was 3 feet long?
Yeah, something like that. It was completely white. There were some also fecal stones around it. And, you know, I haven't been taking any food, so where did that come from?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a puzzle for a while until somebody offered a solution. And he has been researching this topic since the 90s. And he has 3 patents in Russia on how to remove them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're filing for another patent in Russia.
Now, is this document available anywhere that people could see?
Yeah, the 3 patents. This is a interesting part about that. If you just Google Gubarev ropeworm in Russian, or actually he doesn't use the term ropeworm in the patent. He just calls it a helminth removal method.
Oh wow!
And he has 3 patents out there. They're available. That's how I got a hold of it.
Okay.
And eventually I contacted him personally because there is a forum in Russia with where people sell eucalyptus leaves and eucalyptus oil, and people send their pictures as a feedback. There's yesterday I checked, there was 1,200 posts of people reporting the results.
Are these all Russians that are posting?
Russian and Ukraine. I think this site is originally in Ukraine.
That's incredible.
So I knew that something is going on. It's not just a small group of people, but I thought that this is more or less confined to Eastern Europe or Russia or Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And then I contacted Gubarev, and he told me that he identified 5 different stages of this organism, and he's basing his research on just microscopy observations and just whatever procedures he did. He experienced along with his other family members and associates. So then I told him that we're going to publish this in a scientific journal, and I wrote a paper that I try to submit to parasitology journals, mm-hmm. Medical professional journals, and the feedback was that there's no scientific proof that this is in fact a parasite. And the editor asked for electron microscopy and DNA testing. So by training, I'm an electron microscopist, so that was not a problem to get that. The DNA testing is a little bit trickier, but we had that done as well. And
so what came out of that test?
Well, first, initially, we went the cheap route. We sequenced cytochrome oxidase gene and later on 18S gene. Uh-huh. And I would say the results are inconclusive because from the first test, one sample showed human DNA and the other sample showed a human pseudogene, which is not used by the human body at the current stage. And at the same time, there was also a match with a seed bug. And people try to jump into conclusions of what that means, and that's why you want to look at scientific studies. So the papers we published, first of all, I would say that I kind of overreacted, just like you did. You see this thing and you say, "What is that?"
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Especially when you see that video that you have where the thing is moving around in the toilet.
Right. It's actually coming from an autistic child that out of Ireland, I believe.
Oh wow.
So then what happened as a result of the publication of these papers, people in the English-speaking world, they started to contact me and sharing their stories with this. So 141 person contacted me by either email or phoned me.
So I have to think about your email address box being filled with pictures of God knows what. That's got to be a great way to wake up in the morning.
People typically they ask if it's okay to send it, and then they send it. But the truth is that nobody knows what it is really. It's definitely some feature of the human anatomy or the human body that if pretty much any kind of oxidation therapy, people do hyperbaric chamber, they go into hyperbaric chamber, and then they expel that. They do ozone treatments, they do hydrogen peroxide or chlorine dioxide. These are the four different types of oxidative therapies that I'm aware of. And they see this. So again, the fact that this thing is moving in the toilet bowl, does this mean that it's alive? You know, that's another question of how you define life. But this organism definitely has a cellular structure, and it contains cells, and you can clearly see that under the microscope, or you can stain the cells to see the DNA. That's what was done. We did DAPI stain to show. Then there were several DNA extractions, and I had this done both in the United States and China.
Wow.
So
it obviously needs to eat, right, too, as well, right?
What's that?
It obviously needs to eat as well. If it's some sort of living thing, it would
feeding
need
off
to
something.
Yeah, it would need to eat.
Right. So the theory is that it captures the fecal content, and it can move by jet propulsion, releasing gas bubbles through the microchannels. If you look under the microscope, you'll see the structure to this thing. There are some microchannels, and it could be quite long. So sometimes you see it twists like a mop, trying to squeeze the nutrients out of the humus that travels through the intestinal tract.
Golly. So,
backing up, what in the world do you think is giving us? How are we getting these things, in your opinion? Or do we all have them?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. Maybe it is part of our immune response. Maybe this is mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. That's what doctors call it. After I started to learn more about the subject, I went on YouTube and I saw a whole bunch of videos posted by doctors that do all sorts of surgeries out of different countries, and you see this blob of mucus of yellowish color in the colon and in the nose. You know, they call it polyps in the nose or lymphoid aggregates in the colon, and so on and so forth. But the fact that this thing can move on its own is just amazing.
And that video that you have, I'm not sure if it's on your YouTube channel. It might be where there's a video of a colonoscopy, and the doctor's trying to get this worm out. I'm not sure if it's a ropeworm or parasite, but it was actually moving around like it didn't want to be caught, kind of a thing.
I haven't seen that one, but the inventor of colonoscopy, Dr. Hiromi Shinya from Japan, there's a YouTube video of, I guess, his earlier work, and there you can see the string of mucus attached to the lining of the intestine, and that was after the colonoscopy prep, where people really clean them out themselves, really good, either using enemas or medication, so that the doctors can stick a camera in there and look around, kind of thing.
So the question I have is this whole idea of people feeling like we need to get this stuff out. There's some people who say that this is part of our bodies and this is a natural thing. Like we had Agenus von der Planets on. He eats a lot of raw meat, or he did when he was living, and he thought that this kind of stuff is it's kind of not in our best interest to go after these things, because we live in harmony with them. And then there's the other side, on the raw food side, or kind of the cleansing side, that say we need to get these things out. Do you fall somewhere in the middle, or what are your thoughts on that?
Justin, it goes something like this. Humans started to cook food not that long ago. So if this is a parasite that has been around for a while, it can definitely live on the raw food. I've been on the raw food diet for 6 months myself, and it was kind of a natural tendency for my body. Even after the first fast, I just wanted to eat fruits and vegetables and not cooked. So the meat in one of the forums, Russian forums that are devoted to raw foodism, somebody suggested trying to eat raw meat, and I tried it, and I did not agree with my body very well. Maybe it's very common to mix the cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're eating meat, maybe you are to have the ropeworms that would help you digest it. And
you already would have them, you said? Maybe?
Maybe you would have them if you are eating certain types of foods.
Okay.
There was a paper published in Nature. They tested several people, and one of them was vegan for the whole life. And then they put him on a meat diet for a week, and the bacteria that helps digest the meat in the intestine grew in just one day. So, the body is very adaptive to whatever you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you on the other hand, when I went to China this summer, I went back to the cooked diet, and I immediately started to have gout in my joints. And I had pain all over the body for about a week, and then it went away.
Isn't that
interesting? There's a question of what's the right diet, and I look at it philosophically. The diet, by definition, means some deprivation of something. It's some sort of a deficiency. That's the definition of the word diet.
Right.
So, I personally try to eat raw food as much as I can. I don't make an effort to eat any animal protein, but if it comes to me, I'll eat it. And the reason for that is aggression. So, believe it or not, the most aggressive forms, specifically in Russia, are the ones that are devoted to raw food. Because all of a sudden, people come into the position that they can tell other people what they're supposed or not supposed to eat.
Yeah, that happens.
And that brings up a lot of aggression. I mean, I don't want to be aggressive. I would eat most of the things if it's not too much processed. But I buy my food in the local market. I go to the wholesale market and I buy things by the case.
The other day I saw something that was posted online. It was interesting. It was a post about, I think, parasites or something, which is kind of interesting how timely this was. But it was in relation to eating raw meat or something like that. And then someone had responded saying, biochemically, you're much more likely to get parasites from eating unwashed fruits and vegetables and things. Because I'm thinking, how when you cut an apple and you get the core, and down in the core, you might eat a little bit of that, and that's usually unwashed, even if you do wash it yourself. Do you think there's parasites living on our raw fruits and vegetables?
This is a good question. I don't know personally. I would wash my fruits and vegetables, but to the point where in one of your shows, you asked some doctor, where do you stop cleansing, or at what point do you stop that and start to live normal life?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If you have somebody working in the field and who knows what kind of diet they're on, and they use the field, which may be an organic field, as a toilet, and then you end up getting human feces on your salad, you get parasites.
Right.
So, I'm not 100% sure that the parasites are the cause, or rather an effect. I would think of the human body as a terrain. So if the terrain is receptive to the parasites, maybe they could even perform some symbiotic relationship for you and help you digest the food. That's how we do actually digest the food. Because if without the microbiota, this whole process would not work for us as well as it does.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like you're saying, the organisms themselves, the beneficial bacteria, will digest the food. But then, some of these parasites, I'm looking at them and they look like these, like you said, these 3-foot long worms. And I'm interested to know if the parasites are causing so many of these symptoms that people had. Because a while ago you mentioned bubbling, because there's 5 different stages of these things. I'm wondering if people feel like you had gout, or someone has bronchitis, or bloating, or digestive IBS kinds of things. I wonder, just with 250 million Americans, I wonder how many of those are caused by parasites, or at least related to parasites.
Well, the World Health Organization estimates that every 4th person on this planet has parasites, and parasites are not just huge monstrous creatures. They also include bacteria, viruses, and fungi.
Oh, okay.
In addition to the worms. And it's the way I look at it, it's a multi-layer system. So you cannot have an Ascaris worm without something inside. So it's a multi-level living thing. Mm-hmm. So do parasites cause symptoms? Sure they do. Otherwise, we would not know about it. Mm-hmm. They do a good job masking and bypassing the immune system. But they do add additional toxic load on the body because in addition to excreting your waste, you have to excrete their waste as well. Mm-hmm. They could deprive people of the nutrients, depending on what they are. But sometimes even the doctors, they've for example, the IBS, there is a treatment out there by an alternative treatment where they actually use, I think it's whipworm.
Whipworm.
That they actually put that into people, and it reduces the IBS symptoms.
Yeah, I've heard about that. They actually introduce the worm into the body, don't they?
Yes. So I just guess that at this point we don't know enough, and that's my personal take on it. This whole parasitology business, if you look at the medical field, you try to do a test, and typically they're looking for some sort of. They look at the feces and they look under the microscope to identify certain eggs. Mm-hmm. And I've done this test in Germany 2 times, and both times it came down negative. The ropeworms, there's a whole community out there. I guess you're going to be talking to Andreas Kalker.
We are, yes.
And he's linked into the autism in children, and not only children, in the autism world. So there seems to be some connection with that. But people have submitted the samples to the labs, and at this point, they either come down as they would just say it's mucus, mm-hmm. or they would say it's an unknown parasite without releasing the DNA data.
Now, if I'm correct, a lot of the testing for these things is somewhat, because of this, is somewhat new. It's sort of elementary in terms of they're looking for the actual, like you said, the eggs or the
feces.
The feces, but not a lot of the tests are actually doing the DNA of these things, are they?
There is a company out there that does exactly that. They do a DNA test, but for whatever reason, they would not release the data. So for $300 or whatever, you're gonna get a results unknown parasite. How do they know it's parasite? I have no idea. This is something that needs to be proven scientifically that it is a parasite. There's certain things in biology where a single cell organism can form a multicellular organism. For example, slime mold. Mm-hmm. That's one example. Whether or not this is a biofilm. The latest test we've done, where we used Illumina testing that was done in China, we probably sampled 1%, around 1% of the genome. It shows 90% of the DNA unknown. It doesn't match anything in the GenBank. Now, people are sequencing many different things, and if you take a certain species that you know that this is a certain species, then you can sequence the DNA and you can say, this is a certain type of an organism. Uh-huh. Whereas here, it's kind of backwards because the sample is contaminated. It comes from the human body. So there is a certain bacteria that lives in the gut that's there all the time. And there's human DNA, but so far what we've seen is only about 10% in what we sequenced, which is just 1% of the full genome or less. So I guess the answer to that would be to do the full genome sequencing of this thing, and assemble the genome and see what it is.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated by this because
I know your jaw's like hanging open over there.
Yeah, because I want to know, from electromagnetic perspective, why we're holding on to these things, and maybe when we come back from the break, Doctor, we can talk about what these things are, the whipworms and pinworms, and There's hookworms and roundworms, all kinds of things.
Whew.
Maybe we can get into that.
Good times.
This is really interesting stuff. So, later on in the show, we'll talk about some of the methods.
I'm not sure if I'm the person to ask about parasitology.
Okay.
This is just the ropeworm is kind of an interesting aspect to all this, but
Sure.
yeah, let's talk about that because I've got 1,000 questions. This is just so good. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. This is episode, what is it, 203? 203. And we'll be right back with Professor Alex Volinsky right after this break. I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress. And stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself, so go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong.
100% listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
Well, Kate, after looking at some of those videos that we watched, I can't imagine that you would want to live in perfect harmony with these things. They just look so disgusting.
I tend to agree.
I'd want to take the position of just getting these things out.
You would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but you never know. I mean, maybe they are, part of the design of the universe to have inside our bodies, but they don't look good, do they?
They don't look good, and I'll tell you from my own experience of what I've expelled from my body in the last year, I've seen an improvement in how I feel, my bloat factor. I mean, there are things that are playing into my opinion on thinking that to get them out is rather beneficial than having them in. But,
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty.
In my own opinion.
Pretty crazy stuff. So if you guys have any questions about that Qigong program, go ahead and let me know. Or if you want to just send me an email and ask me, let me know. I'd love to answer any questions about any of the products that we sell in our store. And if you guys would like to continue this discussion in our forum, we'd love to have you a part of that. There's the link for the forum on our website. You can just sign up. It's free. And you can continue this discussion about parasites. Maybe we can get all the community members and listeners to do some sort of cleanse, a parasite cleanse of some kind. So, interesting stuff. So, we are with Professor Alex Volinsky, and we'll put a link to his website on this show page, episode number 203. And Kate, during the break, you had an interesting thought.
I did. Professor Alex, before the break, I had this question for you. Is it safe? Well, not safe to say anything, I guess. But according to your studies and things, these tests haven't been very forthtelling about what the parasites or the worms actually are, what they're made up of, and if we even have them or not. So would you say that for people listening that are wondering if they should go out and run out and get a test for these parasitic things, is it worth it in your opinion, or is it just better to go the cleansing route and see what comes out naturally?
There is no test, Kate.
There is no test.
There is no test. The test does not exist for
these
this
specific
thing that's called the rope worm.
Okay.
There's no test. Now, I had several medical doctors contact me about it because they have patients that bring it to their office. And I did the same thing. There is no commercial test available to say yes. Well, first of all, it is not established scientifically that this is a parasite to begin with.
Right.
Nobody knows what it is, including me. So let me ask you this question, Kate. You've had a healthy lifestyle for how many years?
I'd say very healthy the last 10 or 12.
10 or 12 years. So you've been a vegetarian for how many years?
I still actually eat meat.
Okay. Well, but you would consider yourself to be on this path of cleansing, and
Absolutely.
You guys are promoting health products, and that's what the radio is called, extreme health.
Absolutely.
Right? And you did coffee enemas, and you had this stuff come out.
Correct.
So, I felt instantaneous relief for a whole bunch of symptoms, but I guess there are several approaches that people can take about it. I actually changed my whole way of life, not because the way it's going to work out. If you want to remove let's assume this parasite is there for a reason.
Okay.
Whatever that reason is, it could be maybe a spiritual reason, it could be a physiological reason, whatever that reason is.
Okay.
And you remove it. So what are you going to have? There's going to be some sort of a void, right?
Right.
Okay, so then that void is going to get filled up with something else. If you actually, it goes back to the Gospel of the Essenes. You can get this document online. It's the Scriptures of the Dead Sea.
Okay.
Talks about how Jesus Christ was cleansing his people and whatnot. Again. Is it natural to go through these procedures, and people have to decide on their own. There are many people that promote colon therapy. There are clinics that you can go to, and I know Donna Gates is a big proponent of colonics and things like that. Personally, I had some very big benefits, and I would put removal of the fully developed rope worms at the top of the list of what I have done to my health. But
Really?
it goes in hand with daily exercise, running barefoot almost every day, swimming whenever I can, and all sorts of weather, and just having a healthy lifestyle.
Interesting.
So if you decide to change your way of life, to change your terrain, kind of get out of the matrix a little bit, then maybe that's the way to go. Otherwise, you can just continue sleeping.
I was going to ask you,
Yes.
in terms of you just said sleeping. Do you think that parasites affect our consciousness in any way?
Oh, there's no question in my mind that they do. I told you this fasting came naturally to me. I was blessed with it. But during this 5th day of fasting, they came out in the evening. But during the day, I was so depressed I didn't want to live. I was laying in bed, and I said, okay, if I'm going to die, I don't care. So they do. And other people, they do report there is some connection with the moon cycle, so they get more active during the full moon. And, I've seen all sorts of crazy stories or theories that are out there where they do come from.
That would make a lot of sense because, you know how you've heard about the crime rates in cities, and major cities will go up to a certain degree every time there's a full moon? Maybe that's the parasites that are...
Making people go crazy.
Dr. Gubarev describes this in his book. He's actually an expert. His expertise in ergonomics, and in Russia it would be called... occupational safety.
Okay.
So he claims that these things are more active at night, like from 1 a.m. till 5 a.m., and they do affect people that have to work and they operate heavy machinery or plane or train, things like that. That's what he writes about in his book because that's his specialty is in that. It is quite possible.
You know, it's interesting. A while back I heard David Wolf, a guest we've had a couple times on our show. You might know who he is. He talked about how minerals, there's a direct correlation between minerals and our ability to have an open mind. And I thought that was very interesting. You know, if someone's completely mineralized and they have all 92 minerals and they're flowing through their bloodstream, that's going to affect their ability to have open mind and that kind of thing. And it's interesting, too, that the parasites can affect consciousness and our ability to,
Justin, these are simple creatures, but they do interact with the human body. First of all, they go undetected by hijacking certain parts of the system, and you have no idea that they're there, right? Kate, you had no idea you had this thing living in you, whatever this thing is.
No,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it took some action on your side to forcefully remove them from your body, and after that, you felt better.
Right.
So that is my experience as well. I guess the point of that is you removing them physically is probably just not enough because this is a systemic thing. It's part of the system.
Why would you think it wouldn't be enough? Because you need to replace it with something else, or it's there's much more going on?
Let's put it this way. I don't know a single person on this planet, including Dr. Gubarev, who completely got rid of the rope worms, whatever they are. Now, he claims that there are 5 developmental stages, and the first stage is just mucus. It's just a blob of mucus. I guess it's going to take somebody from the medical community to do a full-blown DNA test to really see what it is. There are more questions at this point than answers, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's interesting to me how you said they kind of go with the full moon or the moon cycle because it doesn't.
Let me tell you this: this group that you're going to talk to, Andreas Kalker, of autistic children. Some of them are no longer children; they're adults, and they have this self-destructive behavior where they really go at it and. Certain people, they go on to the cleansing and they remove enormous amounts of this rope worms. To be honest with you, I still cannot believe how much stuff is in the human body. During the last fast that I did in October, every day, half a pound of this stuff came out of me. So I went down to 145 pounds, but I did not lose any muscle tissue, I would say, or not as much muscle tissue as just this biomass that just keeps coming out.
How tall of a guy are you?
6'2".
6'2". So you went down to 145, and that's amazing.
I went down to 145. So that's over 100 pounds overall from like maximum to the bottom. I would say it was 145.
Right.
It was over 100 pounds, but I got some of it back. So the diet does affect of how much you get back, and there is a medical doctor out of Ukraine. His name is Voroshilov, Alexander Voroshilov, and he has been researching fasting for over 15 years and has over 30,000 patients. And I signed up with his program. I haven't tried it yet.
How do you spell his last name?
Voroshilov, VOROSHIROV.
Okay,
awesome.
And he's got a fasting program.
He has a program. He doesn't speak English. It doesn't seem like it. He has a website. It's called golod.org. GOLOD.org.
Okay.
And he consults people by Skype and over the internet. He came up with a way to avoid typical symptoms that people would have. Like he claims that his patients don't go into the acidosis, and based on he sent me the description of the program, and then this program gets tailored to each person individually. But the main thing is first to control the hunger by releasing the stomach juice from the stomach, doing a certain exercise, just dumping the stomach juice. Once you do that, you're no longer hungry. And then the second part of the program is draining the gallbladder or draining the bile. Mm-hmm. And the third one is having a bowel movement at least once a day to release all the toxins. That's the know-how of his program that consists of the three parts, and then it gets tailored. So I'm kind of studying on how to do these exercises and what this is about. The program is over 50 pages. The document is in Russian.
Wow.
And, it's basically the idea is that you fast one day at a time. He's asking me to do the blood test, which I would probably do to make sure that, there's an improvement before and after. Mm-hmm. And he has several YouTube videos. He's been on TV shows in Ukraine, talking about that. And, it kind of makes sense what he's describing. Cause eating food is kind of conditioning. We eat 3 times a day because we're used to eating 3 times a day, so our body excretes stomach juice 3 times a day because we're used to doing that.
Right.
And a long time ago, thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago, there was no agriculture, and so we didn't have food 3 times a day. Mm-hmm. So, you mentioned another thing about the minerals, and there's an alternative view to that the only time you do have a balanced diet, if you call it, is when you're fasting, when you're eating yourself. That's when you have a balanced diet, because you don't really know what your body needs at a certain point in time.
Right.
And then you have this huge business of supplementation. I guess it has been scientifically proven that there's certain types of deficiencies there. You can develop a certain condition like scurvy, for example, vitamin C. But then at the same time, if you believe at what other people are saying is fasting cures scurvy. So how is that possible? You have a vitamin C deficiency and a person stops eating and the symptoms go away.
I've heard Jonathan Wright, I think up in Seattle, and he talked about how the intestinal flora will actually create the vitamins and minerals that you need as long as you have the correct intestinal flora. So maybe that's what's going on.
It's definitely, there is some truth to that. The question is whether or not this microflora synthesizes, whether or not it can be absorbed in the body. There is a mono raw vegan person in Russia who eats pears year round. That's all he eats, just pears. Has been doing that for years.
That's all he eats.
And you have other people in Siberia that are on 100% meat diet and fish diet. And some people in tropical climates, they eat fruit, so they're fruitarians. Uh-huh. How is this possible? There's a huge array of what people are eating. And then you have a stream of breatharians out of Russia and Ukraine. Some of them go to the extreme, saying that whatever you put in your mouth is not good for you, mm-hmm. and you can get the energy from other sources, but it's probably going to understand how that actually works.
It definitely brings up the question, or poses the question of maybe whatever we believe is working for us is actually working for us, doesn't it?
Well,
possibly.
Then we're getting to the philosophy. The latest things I've been reading is from Vadim Zeland. He came up with this model of the world called reality transurfing. And he's a physicist by training, and then he came up with this best-selling books. He wrote 6 books about reality transurfing, where he says that this material world is a reflection. And it's basically like a dual mirror. So you want the rope parasites to be parasites, they will be. You want the rope worms to be part of the human physiology, they will be, just like an electron.
Right.
We don't know if it's a particle or it's a wave. Depends on how you look. It can be both. So
what is the name of his book? Do you know?
I'm sorry, what?
What is the name of one of his good books that you like? That sounds really interesting.
The first book is called Reality Transurfing.
Okay, that is the name. Got it.
And it's Vadim Zeland. It's available in English, and he has a website. I think it's called zelands.com maybe, or .ru. I know he has a couple of sites, but
well, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like you said, if you believe that you have parasites, or if you believe, I mean, I'm sure there's something to that. There's got to be.
Justin, you put a fire to your hand, and if you believe that you're not going to burn your hand, is that really what's going to happen? This is a dual world. You're going to burn your hand.
Unless you're a hot coal walker.
Yeah, right.
Maybe. So,
who knows?
I tell you, since I kind of changed my attitude towards the rope worms, they're not bothering me as much. But at the same time, I cannot get the fully developed, what Gubarev calls stage 5, the 3 feet long things out. They just don't come out of me anymore.
How often do you think it would be good for someone? I know you're not a medical doctor and we can't give medical advice, any of us, but let's say for you, being someone who's down in Florida, it's a little more tropical, so people say there's more parasites in places like that. How often do you yourself do a cleanse, like a parasite cleanse or a fast each year?
So far, the water fasting, I've done it once a year. This program that I signed up with, it's fasting of 1 week per month for 6 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's not really, I mean, if you can consider this to be a cleanse, but it's kind of a natural cleanse. You don't take anything. Well, I shouldn't say that. People should really look at the program as a whole. Mm-hmm. But as far as the product, like a cleansing product, that there many are out there, I don't know. I mean, I haven't done any one of those commercial cleanses. I've tried diatomaceous earth. Mm-hmm. I've tried psyllium husks and bentonite clay. But I did not sign up or purchased any kind of a specific cleanse. Mm-hmm. I've done 9 liver flushes. Andreas Moritz has books about that, and that was really amazing of how much stuff comes out just from their liver flush. Now, I know a person who lives here in Florida who almost had his gallbladder removed as a result of such a thing. He had gallbladder stones, and they got stuck, so he was lucky enough to save his gallbladder. So,
wow.
I guess that's why the medical community does not recommend to do this kind of things, because they tend to be sometimes life-threatening.
Did you do the, I think they recommend cherry juice to soften the stones. Is that part of that particular flush as well?
No, the one I'm talking about is the liver flush with grapefruit, freshly squeezed grapefruit juice and olive oil with an Epsom salt prep before that.
I see.
And I did this reading out of the Russian book originally, and I didn't do the prep, and the pain was horrible. I felt like I ate a cow. Oh. But I passed thousands of stones that morning. Wow. So after about 4 of them, I stopped passing out any stones, and I've done 9 flushes, and last time I was in China in December, I spent a month there. Nothing came out. So,
wow, that's pretty amazing. Do you think it's important to do a water fast if you want to get rid of some of these rope worms? Do you think that's very?
That was my next question.
Oh wow,
yeah,
we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if water fasting agrees well with the society and with the human body very well.
Yeah.
Really?
It's not a natural thing to do. We tend to eat, right? And the question is of first of all, do you get the correct information about fasting? Mm-hmm. And the second question is, what do you do afterwards? And then maybe all these parasites, they become secondary to your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It is. You cannot. We discussed this, right? You said, "Well, are you supposed to wash your vegetables and fruit?" The answer is yes, but to what extent? You can start irradiating produce like it's done in this country to kill everything. Is that the way to go? We do need the microbiota that lives in the gut, and without that, we would not be able to survive. So it's just once it goes out of balance, once it goes out of homeostasis, that's when people start to have problems.
So is there a way to kill these things? Because you said earlier that there's 5 stages of development. Is there Do you have to do something in each stage of development, or can you kill them?
That's what Gubarev's book and his methods address. I was not aware that he had this thing translated into English.
Oh, okay.
But he patented 3 types of enemas, and the most popular one that gets rid of the more developed stages is the eucalyptus lemon. So the eucalyptus broth with some eucalyptus oil after a cleansing enema. And,
so a cleansing enema would just be like a water enema?
Yeah, water enema just to make sure that the large intestine is clean, and then it is followed by 30 grams of eucalyptus leaves in a quart of water, boiled for 15 minutes, and then cooled down to 42 degrees centigrade.
Okay.
It's like a fever temperature, with 30 drops of eucalyptus oil added to that solution just before the administration.
Okay, and that's all that particular.
That's
enema
the patent, and that's what people really liked in Russia and Ukraine, and they sell the ingredients on the site and 1,200 posts showing what came out.
Can you put a link? Is there a way to get an access to that website? I'm sure our listeners are going to love to. Well, I guess it's in Russian, isn't it?
I can send you a whole bunch of links. Yeah, they're going to be in Russian.
Okay, well, you know what? A lot of the browsers these days will translate to some degree, so maybe we can.
Yeah, you heard about Lost in Translation. I'm not really sure if I want to promote this particular site because they only focus on one particular method.
Okay.
So that's when it was really helpful for me to contact Gubarev because he was not aware of all of this going on. His patents are available in Russian. If you just do a search on Google, they're going to come up. The actual document comes up describing the procedure. So I'm not really sure what this patent actually protects because people are doing it at home.
They're doing it already, yeah.
They're doing it, and
so the first one
he recommended that I start milk with salt. And I'm not really sure if he has a patent for that. He has a patent for baking soda enema. It's just a solution in water.
Okay.
And I forgot the exact concentration, something like maybe 1 tablespoon per quart or maybe 2 tablespoons per quart.
And how often are people doing these enemas?
So he recommends it every 4 days. Now, what happens is the ropeworms come out afterwards the next day or the same evening with the regular water cleansing enema.
Okay.
And that's you figure out you have to do the whole thing is very time consuming, and I'm not really sure how practical this is. There's also sometimes people have seen that this ropeworms come out with blood. And so there is a possibility that the head attaches to the lining of the intestine. So if you remove that violently using this enemas and this protocols, then there could be internal bleeding. And then he recommended the use of dead and live water made by electrolysis.
What is the difference between that?
Okay, so if you take 2 electrodes and you stick them in water, then if you apply DC voltage to that, then the water is going to separate, forming hydrogen on one side and oxygen on the other side. It's a well-known process known as electrolysis.
Okay.
So one becomes acidic, one becomes basic, and if you put a membrane between, you can separate the water. So the acidic water is the dead water; it stops bleeding on contact, and the other one is alkaline. It's called live water.
Okay, so you'd want to use the dead water.
If there is bleeding, yes, it stops bleeding on contact. I don't know if there's any way to stop the internal bleeding other than this.
I wonder if there's a more gentle way of removing or getting these things to
detach themselves
from. Kate, let me ask you this. When you did this enema, did you feel anything in your chest and in your lungs and maybe in your nose and throat area?
No.
Okay. Because that's what happened to me, and that's what several people report, is that after they remove this stuff from their intestines, from the colon, basically, they start to get stuffed nose and the throat and, get kind of bronchitis kind of symptoms.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I was not able to breathe with both nostrils after those procedures, and now I can.
How long did those effects last for?
It's been going on for a while, several months, I would say.
No, wow. So what do you attribute that to?
I actually felt this thing move inside the body. I felt the movement. Certain people report that they can feel the movement.
Okay.
And of course, you can imagine that this is very subjective. But if you ever try the eucalyptus broth with oil enema, you feel it in your chest. It's you feel it in your chest and in your nose. So.
Wow, even in an enema form. That doesn't surprise me all that much, though, because that is a strong solution.
So what is the eucalyptus doing, do you think?
I have never seen the rope worms come out alive. Actually, this is not the end of the method. This right after you do the eucalyptus broth with the eucalyptus oil, there's a lemon juice.
Okay.
Straight lemon juice, undiluted, from like 5 to 6 lemons.
Oh my God.
Now this is in a separate enema after the eucalyptus.
Right, and that's a very brutal procedure. So, first of all, it's really hard to hold it, and there's this sensation where you would really want to release it. Mm-hmm. But if you hold on to it, then there's a huge roar that you feel inside of you, and that's when supposedly this thing moves, trying to escape the solution. But lemon juice kills it. And people drink lemon juice. You have to be careful not to ruin the enamel of the teeth, so you do it through the straw before you go to bed.
Yeah, some people will do that. They'll drink lemon juice, or some people will do a little shot of olive oil and lemon juice before bed, kind of thing. But
that's kind of already a liver cleanse, because the olive oil is going to cause the release of bile.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting.
That's
well, this might be a silly question, but are these rope worms only hanging out in our digestive tract, or can they be elsewhere in the body?
I think they can be in other places in the body.
You do?
And people have reported that. Again, these are personal, anecdotal stories, but they do report them in different parts of the body.
Professor,
not just the intestinal tract.
Volinsky, we had a guest on a while back, Dr. What was his name? Emil de Toffel, and he has a website where he has EMF protecting products there, from cell phones and things. And he was talking about the blood-brain barrier in our bodies and how the cell phone's compromising that. And so what's happening is, what he's seeing is that toxins and parasites and things like this can actually get into the brains of people now, because the cell phones are causing the weakening of this blood-brain barrier. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, if you have this rope worm sitting in the sinuses, that's pretty close to the brain.
Oh, that's
true. If they're not directly connecting to the brain, they definitely send the chemical signals to the brain. And
was that a rope worm that I saw on one of the YouTube videos in your account where the surgeon's removing?
The doctor calls it inspissated mucus, and they send it to culture, and it was Staph aureus. Now, if you have any relationship to biology, you look at that thing and you say, can this possibly be a colony of staph? And the answer is no. So they look the same. Mm-hmm. These features look the same. The stuff that's being pulled out of the nose, doctors call them polyps, or the lymphoid aggregates, or inspissated mucus. This is, I guess, the area that needs to be researched to figure out what the actual function is. But
yeah, it's interesting.
There some of the channels in the skull and in the tissue they're only maybe a millimeter wide, and if that gets clogged up, then the organ is not draining, and then you have accumulation of the drainage products in that area. And, certain bacteria and whatnot starts to grow there. They use it as a food source. So, you get stuffy nose. And it happens in small children. It happens pretty much from birth.
Have you ever done any enemas? We have a guy that he's in our forum. His name's Daniel Cosmic, and he does these interesting enemas where he goes on a yoga mat.
A yoga trapeze.
Or a trapeze, I'm sorry. Yeah, a yoga trapeze, and he's upside down. Essentially, it's an inverted enema, and he's posted some videos in our forum about that, about how he does that. Have you done those yourself? Any kind of radical kind of things like that?
Initially, that's how I did it. Actually, I didn't know much about this whole business of cleansing. I did what would be called a micro enema. I did a 4-ounce enema, and I started originally with hydrogen peroxide because I saw in one of the seminars out of Russia, I saw this possibility of using small dilution of hydrogen peroxide in an enema, and I tried that. And later on, I purchased a device. It's called an Implantorama. It's actually a very clever device to administer an enema. And they use a male urethral catheter that's about 40 centimeters, French 14. So it's 4 millimeters in diameter, 40 centimeters long.
So it's very
flexible.
Thin, yeah.
And I do use coconut oil to lubricate it. I think you mentioned it on on your show recently.
Yeah.
So I found that kind of interesting because coconut oil does not irritate things in that area.
Yeah.
But basically, you can administer it laying on your back. Otherwise, you can use an Esmark cup and use gravity to feed the enema. But originally, I would stand on. I would do one of those flip arounds things.
Oh.
But I kind of stopped doing that because it's an extra layer of complexity.
Did you feel like
you want to be close? You want to be close to the bathroom.
Sure.
Actually, maybe do it in the bathtub because the urge to release, especially with one of those special milk with salt, was the worst one for me personally.
In terms of what, not being able to hold it, or what
not being able to hold it. First time I was only able to hold it for 3 minutes, and that was after I experienced the lemon, which I could hold for an hour or two. Now I guess my body's trained to hold any kind of enema for a long time.
Wow.
Speaking of that, why are we not able to hold them very long? And how are you able to hold them so long? Is it just a training thing, or something actually changing in your terrain down there that you're able to hold that?
Well, this is an interesting question. I mean, the way the digestive tract operates, it's on the pH, change of the pH.
Okay.
So you start to have this strong bowel movements, but if you hold on to it and I guess you can only imagine how you would do that. You would have to really press in that area to make sure that you don't release it. And when you don't, then you hear and you feel this huge roar inside of you. So supposedly that's when the release of the gas happens by this ropeworm, trying to move away from the solution. So and then you see it next day with a cleansing enema. It just comes out as a blob of.
So if you get an urge to release during your enema, is it a good idea to kind of fight through that so that
that's what I was doing.
That's what what
I was doing. I was fighting through that, and it comes. If you can't, then what are you going to do? You just can't.
Right.
But I also had an idea that maybe all these protocols work because you are changing the pH rapidly, like you're moving from a eucalyptus solution to lemon juice. And I experimented. I tried, first I tried a kind of a water enema with a little bit of hydrogen peroxide just to clean things out. Right after that, I had a soda enema. And right after that, I had an enema with balsamic vinegar, an apple cider vinegar.
So did you do all three of these right in the row, you said?
That's what I did. I tried it, and nothing came out. So,
Wow.
I've never heard of the balsamic before. Wow.
Yeah, so you'd put a little bit of was it Bragg's apple cider vinegar or something like that?
Yeah, Bragg's apple cider vinegar. Gubarev has a patent for that too, I believe. The vinegar enema.
So people want to be very careful with doing running out and saying, I want to get rid of parasites, because of the fact that these things, it appears as though they're attaching somehow and causing bleeding. So people need to be very careful on how they do this, right?
Right. So I guess the way to do it would be under medical supervision. I personally, I tried a colonics. I tried an open colonics session once, and it just, you have to drive to the place, and in the state of Florida, they're not allowing you to do any implants, so it can be only clean water, So you drive to the place to get yourself washed out, and then you drive back, and I just found it not to be very convenient. Now, sometimes people want to do that, and that's fine. But there has to be some sort of supervision, because otherwise it could be potentially dangerous.
In your opinion, is there a benefit to a colonic versus an enema, getting up there higher in the colon, or do you not really have an opinion about that?
I personally use this device, which I have no commercial interest in this. Because in some forums people say he's talking about this all the time. There is a guy in California who sells it. It's called Implantorama. I think the website is implantorama.com.
Okay.
So I'm not associated with them. I just like the idea that they came up with by pumping air into the gallon jar and the water flows on the other side. They do use a male urethral catheter that gets up high. I mean, it goes into the sigmoid pretty much.
Wow.
Because it's 40 centimeters long. I guess the issue comes of how you would remove the ropeworms from the small intestine.
Right.
Or from the stomach, because some people are reporting that they have that in the stomach area, and also in the upper respiratory tract. So that's what the latest patent comes about that we're filing in Russia.
Have you ever done any zapping while you do the enemas?
Tried that because you're in the electricity and water don't mix very well. I tried a zapper in the sauna, but not in the steam room. So no, I have not tried that.
It's interesting with this autism thing that you were talking about a while ago. It's interesting that it seems as if the waste products and the fecal matter of these worms are somehow interacting with the vaccines that kids get. And so there's an indirect relationship between the worms and the parasites and these vaccines. That's very strange. And I think Andreas Kalker is doing a lot of work with that, isn't he?
I guess so. Now, you could look at this alternatively. If you consider this ropeworm to be a trash bag, then that's exactly what it is. It has this features of possibility to move around the body. It can store a lot of things, because sometimes it doesn't come out empty, right? It comes out with certain things inside. So through this microchannels, it can capture the content of the intestine. And people see or feel therapeutic benefit when they remove it. So I guess that would be when you would remove the trash from your house. This is a dual world. So maybe we're meant to have this ropeworm or Funis vermis or mucoid-associated lymphoid tissue, and it's part of the immune system. It just, when it gets clogged up or infected. Now, another part of it, which is really, really bizarre, are the fecal stones. And these things either produce fecal stones or they originate from the fecal stones. And there's just balls of fecal matter that have some white speckles on them that look like sesame seeds.
Wow, and that's being released by allegedly the worms?
Yeah, I mean, there are pictures of this thing being attached to the fecal stone. So they're either originating from the fecal stone or they are producing the fecal stone. It's kind of an excretion of the ropeworm. This fecal stone is. It's about an inch in diameter or so.
Isn't that interesting? I wonder if there's something going on with the maybe not necessarily the relationship of the human body to these things, but just the sheer amount of them as well. Because when you get people talking about candida and things and yeast infections, they'll say that all these people are trying to kill candida, but if you killed candida, you wouldn't have any organisms in your body that would eat up dead cells, and we need a certain amount of candida. It's just the amount of it is out of relationship with what's healthy. And I wonder if that's the same thing going on with parasites too.
Well, Justin, what controls the amount of candida in human body? What do you think or ropeworms or whatever you want to call it.
What we're feeding it.
That's right.
Sugar.
Unless it feeds on the human tissue, which could be another story. But basically through the diet you can control that. So it could be a conscious choice of starve your candida to death, and then people start to have withdrawal symptoms because they crave sugar and other things, and it's a balancing act. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's the homeostasis which you change by the diet or by what you do, your physical exercise.
Is there a die-off in candida, in your opinion, when you water fast?
There is a die-off many things.
Because you're not feeding anything, so is everything kind of
That's interesting.
taking the back seat, or is it you're having to proactively go after those things to help them die off?
Yeah. Again, philosophically thinking about it, the whole medical practice goes after killing. So the word "kill" is in there, and if you take any living creature and you want to kill it, what is it going to try to do back?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, interesting.
It'd be interesting to know.
This is a balance. It's a balancing act.
Balance.
Yeah, I would be curious to know. I mean, I'm sure there's no studies on this yet. I mean, we're just in the elementary ideas of this, but there's got to be a relationship between, I think, how long we live and whether or not we get certain diseases like maybe cancer or heart disease, and either too many of these parasites or the kinds of them or something. I mean, they got to decrease our lifespan.
This is a very fundamental question that you're asking, and there is definitely a huge die-off during the fast, including human cells. There is apoptosis. The cells die, and the whole biochemistry changes. The body goes into the ketosis, so this is a completely different feeding mechanism for the body. The longevity is, I sense there is a huge relationship between, and it goes all the way down to the mitochondria and how oxygen is good for that or not. There is a connection. I just cannot really pinpoint it. This is a really complicated, multifaceted story that is really evolving. And now I would say that I never had the energy levels that I have right now. I'm 40 years old. I don't get sick anymore pretty much, and I can exercise. I can run for hours without getting tired. So I didn't have a body like this when I was 18 years old. It's amazing.
How much of the weight that you lost do you think was actual? I know it's kind of impossible to know, but just guessing. I mean, how much parasites do you think you expelled?
There is, I don't know. I would say jars. At a certain point, I stopped collecting the samples.
Oh gosh.
There is a person on the CD autism group, and she measured that in feet, and she talks about 200 feet or more in a matter of months of cleansing, of expelling this thing. Linear feet.
Would that be
several like gallon jars, 2 or 3 for sure.
Wow. Would that be different parasites? Or it wasn't all connected.
No, they look like the ropeworms. That's what they look like.
Oh my gosh.
So you look like a biology class with all these jars sitting around in your living room.
If anybody's interested, I mean, they are preserved pretty well in ethanol, just alcohol. If the people don't have 70% ethanol, vodka would do it. And also the DNA is also preserved in alcohol as well.
Wow.
Ethanol.
So it'd almost be like making a tincture almost. You could just pop them in there like in your biology class.
Well, believe it or not, I've been using a nosode made from the ropeworms for over a year now.
Yeah, a nosode. Explain to people what that is.
This is an idea that comes from the homeopathy. It is homeopathy, actually. And the main law of homeopathy is the similar cures similar. So you try to find a similarium, that in without the dilution and the succussion, it would cause the symptoms that you try to get rid of. And I guess in this case, it would be called an autonosode, because you're making a nosode out of your human body, and it's the process of diluting the water or the alcohol where these things were sitting in, and succussing it a certain number of times. So, you know, I'm choosing a route of this rope worms rather being my pets than the threat, and I don't intend to completely kill them, just in case they are part of the human physiology. But, you know, the nosode definitely makes them behave better.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing for people to know, is to not kind of take that idea that we have to kill everything, and maybe develop a relationship with them. And
right, fight, and kill don't seem to be very productive.
Yeah, if you're always creating war with other, you know, objects or things, that's never a good thing, you know.
You get a war in return.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are many bad things around there that can kill a human very fast, and they're living. So you know, it's not.
Yeah, you got to know when to pick up your sword and when to lay it down, probably.
Wow. So just to wrap up a little bit, so are there 3 different enema preparations that are recommended by this doctor?
He's not a medical doctor, again, as I said. He is specialized in occupational safety. He patented 3 types of enemas in his book. I think there's more than 20 different types of enemas, but the main ones is this eucalyptus lemon method that I already described. The other one is milk with salt, and the concentration of salt seems to be important. It's 1 quart of milk with 2 tablespoons of salt, and I use sea salt.
What kind of milk do you use on that?
I tried all sorts of milk. I tried pasteurized, homogenized, just regular off-the-shelf milk. I tried on homogenized milk. I have not tried raw milk. Okay. So it doesn't seem to matter as much.
Okay.
And again, what the mechanism, and then as a result, the mucus comes out. So Guberich calls it the first or one of the initial stages of the growth. And it's just mucus, blobs of mucus that don't have any particular structure in terms of the ropey, worm. It's just mucus, but a lot of it comes out, typically about maybe half a pound each time. And it's not directly associated with milk, because if you hold the milk enema for a long time, you're going to get cheese, and you get that, and you get the whey, and you get the mucus separately. They all come out separately.
How long were you able to hold the milk enema?
First time 3 minutes. Now I can go 2 hours.
You can go 2 hours.
Any kind of enema I can hold for 2 hours these days or
now,
more.
Like, if you're at the hour mark of these enemas, or if you're at 30 minutes, is there a beneficial idea of holding it longer, or?
Right, because what happens is that for some of them, and it's very individual. For some of them, there's nothing that happens for the first 30, 40 minutes, sometimes even an hour. Really? And then after an hour, something starts to move, and you start to get this urge. And again, it is questionable what is actually happening. Is your body trying to balance the pH in the gut? And eventually even the lemon juice you're going to neutralize in your body. Maybe that is the mechanism. I'm not really sure. But so the second one was the milk. The third one that he patented is the soda, baking soda.
Baking soda, okay.
Then he talks about also the vinegar with water, and let's see what else. And the dead and live water.
Oh, right.
Separate enemas, so that's already 5.
And so he's got a whole program or protocol that he's developed, and people can perhaps look up that patent on Google.
Yes. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that each patent addresses, according to him, a separate developmental stage of the ropeworm. I just don't have, no matter what I do, I stop passing out what you showed on your side. I don't have this ropey thing. So I get mucus sometimes, but that's it.
Okay. Wow.
So we'll see when things progress when I would do another fast maybe, and and that would be a different story. But
and are you heating up the water to a certain? I know you mentioned a 42 Celsius or something.
It's only for the eucalyptus. The idea is for the eucalyptus is to get absorbed in the colon, or the other ones are all administered at 20 degrees C so that you don't get any absorption.
I see.
Interesting.
So it's cold compared to the human body, 20 degrees C. Now, of course, your body's going to heat it up if you're holding it for an hour or two.
Right.
Wow. So you're doing these enemas, a series of these once a year, you said? Or is that the fast?
I don't think there's any particular schedule. He recommended to do this every 4 days and kind of find the ones that are most powerful or the most the most results that are being produced. For me, it has been the eucalyptus and the milk. And, for my wife, it has been eucalyptus, lemon, and the vinegar.
Wow, isn't that
the soda in me? I can hold it. There's no urge or anything. It just sits there for quite a while, and
Are you and your wife both doing them still that often, every 4 days?
No. It's she's not. People are not comfortable with enemas. I wouldn't say I'm comfortable with it as well. It's kind of an invasive procedure, but if you do this French 14 catheter, it's not as bad, but it is very time consuming, and it's not a pleasant experience. It's pleasant to see the results, right? That's what you experience, Kate, right?
Right.
So that's the part that is appealing, but the whole process is probably not.
Sure.
It's against human nature, I would say.
Do you ever just do the regular kind of coffee enemas people talk about?
It's interesting. I learned about coffee enemas by buying this Implantorama. Mm-hmm. It arrived in the mail with a description of the coffee enemas. I knew nothing about Max Gerson of the coffee enemas.
Okay.
And I tried it maybe for, I don't know, less than a month. I haven't done them for quite a while. Mm-hmm. So
we had an interview with Dr. Patrick Vickers of the Northern Baja Gerson Institute, and it was interesting because he was telling us that he does
one a day.
No, two.
Oh, is it two?
2 of them a day, and Charlotte Gerson has done 2 a day for the last 60 years or something. Coffee enemas, and they hold, I think, 24 ounces of water and
32.
Yeah, 32.
There is a guy in the Russian fasting forum. That has been trying to kill Staph aureus with coffee enemas, and he's done them for over a year. And as a result of that, the little hairs in the intestine, I forgot the
your villi.
Yeah, they changed their direction. And he has a problem, as you can imagine, because that's what moves
everything down.
The feces or the hummus down the drain, and
no.
Poor guy, he had that. So you have to exercise some caution doing all this. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's very invasive. I mean, I have the same experience. I don't particularly like it myself, but I try to do it once a week, just a coffee enema, or twice a week if I can. But it is very, very intense.
I would say maybe these days maybe I do it every 2 months or so, and it's just nothing comes out lately. So, what's the point of torturing yourself with this exercise? And you have to realize, I mean, you have to allocate a large chunk of time for this, typically on the weekend. And is this really how you want to spend your time? That's
right.
Yeah, you're turning down offers to go to dinner because you have
and there's no Super Bowl.
Well, I tend to go towards a more healthy route to do physical exercises, maybe, or run on the beach, and maybe swim.
Yeah,
that's just amazing. So you feel like you've kind of got your life back. You got more energy and lost weight and all of that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I had. I didn't send you the picture, but on the One Radio Network, there's a picture of me standing on my head.
I've seen that.
I used to do that. Now I stand on my hands, actually, because I found it's not very safe to stand on your head, because you put the spinal cord under compression. But the hands are fine if you know how to do it.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, quite a difference in your life. You're an example for sure.
That also helps to drain the sinuses if you consider that. If you flip yourself upside down, the sinuses drain better.
Have you ever done anything with like the niacin flush and the saunas and
you know,
I
I've seen that. And that's the next thing. Actually, my next thing is the chlorine dioxide. I have all the ingredients and have been sitting for about 6 months.
Okay.
And niacin is another thing. There's a book about that.
Do you know what book that is?
Yeah, you take niacin and you go into the sauna and you excrete everything, all the toxins from the skin. And there is a Scientology program that talks about that, right?
Yeah, there is. And I first heard about it from a professor, I think it's Dr. Yu or something. I forget what his name was, but yeah, I heard about that niacin flush, and there's a exact protocol on how to do that. So you're going to get into the MMS pretty soon.
Well, I'm gonna try it. I like combining two things together. So the idea of the sauna. I mean, I already combined the zapper and the sauna.
Right. Right. Why sit in the sauna when you can, and make it more powerful, right?
That's right. I mean, it's not right. I mean, people listening to what are you going to do? You sit in the sauna for an hour. You got to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not very convenient to read the books because you have this. It's still wet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The sauna thing is interesting. I go to the sauna at least once a week, maybe even twice a week.
Uh-huh.
And I try to go into the cold water right away after that to create a little pump to pump the blood around.
Yeah.
There's a theory out there, it comes from also the former Soviet Union about how the blood circulates in the body, that it's really the capillaries and the muscles that really pump the blood around. And the heart is just a valve rather than the pumping mechanism, which, is another alternative way of looking at it. So if you go to the sauna, you heat yourself up, and after that, you go into the cold water, you close out all the pores, so whatever toxins you expelled from your body, they don't go back.
Yeah.
And you wash it off with cold water, and that's what I do.
That's interesting.
Does seem to make sense. You're not reabsorbing all that.
We have a lot of listeners, and they ask all the time, where do they get the MMS? Are you at liberty to say where you got yours?
There is a site, Water Purification Solutions or something. I don't know the exact link.
Mm-hmm.
I actually bought the raw ingredients on eBay, and because the question comes about the purity, and you can get the solution already pre-mixed. That's how you can avoid the mistakes. I don't have any problem diluting hydrochloric acid or taking sodium chloride and preparing a 28% solution out of it. So I have the raw ingredients. I have the flakes of sodium chloride, and I have I bought the clean room grade hydrochloric acid, 37%.
Oh gosh, how funny.
That I'm going to make a 4% out of. But I haven't started yet. I still have to figure out all the concentrations and get all the necessary glassware to do that, and the measuring scale and all that to do right.
We had Jim Humble on our show a while back, and he talked about all the different benefits of MMS. And there's actually a DVD that we purchased. I forget where we got it. I think it was off of one of his websites, and he goes through all the different protocols of how to use it, and he talks about nebulizing it and doing enemas with it, and putting it on the skin to get rid of staph infection, all kinds of crazy things.
Right. The hydrogen peroxide was an easy way in terms of you don't have to play too much with the chemistry.
Right.
You just make sure you don't you dilute it. You have to take caution when you're dealing with 35%, because if it does get on your skin or your hands, it's going to burn, and the skin turns white. But other than that, you just add drops to water, basically. Whereas MMS is probably a little bit more involved. I just want to try it to see what it's like.
I wrote a series of blog posts about it. I think I did it for 7 days or something, and I documented what happened. And I found it to be very cleansing and very powerful. I mean, you're talking about a handful of drops every day, and man, is that stuff powerful.
Well, it's a heavy oxidizing agent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's there are many ways to achieve a similar effect, I guess. And you can do physical exercise, or you can use ozone, or you can go to the hyperbaric chamber.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So aside from the MMS, where do you go from here? What kinds of new things are you going to try? Are you going to try anything new, or you just kind of have one thing that you try like that?
To do this properly and to take it to the next level, this has to be a properly funded study. So I do have a white paper, I guess a proposal pending with the Bill Gates Foundation. And Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, they're into this kind of thing, parasites.
Really?
So the first one, I didn't have much scientific data to back this up. Now I do. So it's been pending for a while. So hopefully this thing is going to get funded. It's not that expensive, but to do this at the proper level and make a valid study, the next thing is the full genome test. So that in itself is expensive. It's tens of thousands of dollars depending on how large the genome is. And then the next issue comes with somebody with the expertise in bioinformatics to assemble this genome and see what it's matching. So far, what we've done is probably around 1%, and it's only a 10% match to human DNA and bacteria DNA. 90% is not matching anything that's out there.
Jeez, wow.
So,
what is it, right?
What is it? This is the big question. Just like you a couple of years ago when I first passed it out, I was, I guess, surprised by it, and then I wrote those papers. I don't regret I did. Now we learned that this, we thought that it takes tens of years for this thing to develop in a fully adult worm. And, now this kids with autism, they're not that old and they have it. And they pass them fully developed. So this theory that it takes tens of years for this thing to grow doesn't seem to be valid. Interesting, I've seen this movie recently. It's from 1995. It's called First Do No Harm.
Okay.
About epilepsy in children. And there is a ketogenic diet that they put these kids on, and it seems to get rid of the epilepsy symptoms. And again, there's no understanding what's causing this epileptic seizures in these children. But autistic kids have seizures sometimes, and it seems like when they expel these ropeworms, they tend to be better, and they even eventually drop their autism completely. I guess that's what you can talk to Andreas Kalker about. And
yeah, it's fascinating to me because, like you said, many people are saying that these things are, take 10 years to grow, but how is a 6-year-old autistic kid expelling fully developed stage 5 ropeworms?
Right. This video, there's an autistic child that had no treatment whatsoever that passes them in the stool, and they tend to move after they've been passed out. Now, does this mean it's an indication that this thing is alive? Well, there's definitely a demonstration of the capability. There's another woman out of California, and her husband is a medical doctor. And she's passing them in her stool and has videos of these things moving. So this is not just one episode where there's motion that has been captured on the video camera.
Jeez, that's amazing. Do you think what is his name? I forget. The Guber is the name of the man who has these patents. Do you think he'll ever put together a full comprehensive program where people could either watch videos or read specific documents like that?
I guess so. So what happened is I got invited to give a talk at the Chronic Disease Research Conference in Seattle, Washington. And he got invited there as well. So I met him for the first time in person. And so his idea is to have medical centers And I guess in Russia it's possible where all of this would be available to people. You know, I learned a lot of things. I had no idea that there are places where you can go and fast under medical supervision in the United States.
Yeah.
I also didn't know that there are places in the United States where people can have hydrogen peroxide administered IV. I thought it's only available in Moscow, Russia.
Yeah.
But apparently in the United States you can have that as well. Wow. So that's his idea. He's currently working on the protocol to address prostate issues. So he believes that everything is related to this ropeworm. So his view of the prostate problems is the ropeworms. If you had a chance to watch some of the videos of the removed appendix, I posted some videos from YouTube where they see a very rare condition called appendiceal mucocell.
I saw the headline for that video. Yeah, but I didn't watch
This is a rare condition where doctors, when they see it, they can publish a paper in the scientific journal about that because it's a very rare case. Most of the times they see fecal matter in the appendix, and that's why the appendix gets removed. But just morphologically, looking at this, it looks the same. It looks the same to me, whether it's the colon or it's the nose and the sinuses or the appendix. Just has the same appearance.
Wow.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It looks the same. Now, it doesn't mean much these days because you cannot just make claims based on the morphology or the appearance. But it does have cellular structure, and it has the capacity or capability to move. And it's just one of those very strange things. You can imagine why, because the first time I heard about it, I could not believe that the medical community could be ignoring this for hundreds of years. I mean, people have been doing autopsies, and they're present there. They look like fecal matter. Right? And that's, I don't know, what did you actually take yours to the doctor or what?
Yeah, I did. In the lab, of course, said it was basic fecal matter, and I just kind of have a hard time believing that. But
so wait, you went to the medical doctor and the doctor ordered a test?
Yes, to send to a lab, and then the lab results came back and they said, no, you're basically they said, you're good to go. It's just regular fecal matter.
Okay. Well, that's really strange because you have to realize the tests that are done in the lab, they are standardized tests, meaning that if this thing is not known to the scientific community, how could there be a test for it?
Absolutely.
You know, now you can put it under the optical microscope, and you're going to see the cells. You can see the nucleus of the cell. You know, you can prove to yourself that this is in fact a cell by staining it. You can go to the next step and submit it to some sort of a DNA test. You know, that's the route where that I have been going is to do a full genome test to sequence the whole genome of this thing.
Yeah, I can see why, and I think it's really valuable because when something like this happens to people, you want answers, you want to know, you want some definite. Yeah, sure. I mean.
Yeah. But again, to do this, we're talking. I mean, I personally spend thousands of dollars doing it. Yeah. And there comes a point where it's just not feasible for a single person to continue this kind of research. That's why the same Chronic Disease Research Foundation, they're trying to set up a foundation to fund this and to properly fund this kind of research. Some of this things actually does match certain things that were submitted to GenBank that was sequenced from the human fecal matter, and then what if the 90% of the DNA is not matching anything? Does this necessarily mean that it belongs to the ropeworm, or maybe some other bacteria that lives in the gut that has not been sequenced? You know, that then you're thinking about how to do this properly by maybe taking 10 samples from 10 different people and doing the comparison of the DNA between them. You know, there are people that do that. That's their job to do that. And it's a borderline between maybe medicine and biology. You need to have expertise in bioinformatics to be able to handle gigabytes of data, of DNA that just comes off the Illumina machine or whatever you're using. You know, that's it's a complicated issue that, unfortunately, at this point, I cannot provide the definite answer. And my personal choice was to say that, it's not my enemy, at least at this point.
I think that's beautiful, and we appreciate your story and all that your interest in it. Because when people get hit with stuff like this, it's frightening. It's nice to know you're not alone.
Kate, people are really, really sick. I mean, the personal stories that they share with me, they're just mind-boggling. What happens to people because of this? And I was lucky enough not to experience this. And you seem to be a healthy person, and you just did a cough enema and you passed it out.
Right.
There are people that are claiming, actually all of these people that contacted me, they're either, majority of them is to say, oh, we suffer from this ropeworm. We pass it in the stool. We want to know what this is. That's the majority of people, 141 people so far.
Wow.
The next one, and they go about the same number of people, about 20 each, are Lyme patients. They have Lyme disease. Then the parents of autistic children would be another group. And the fourth one, actually it's a minor group, but they say they have Morgellons.
I was going to ask you, that was on my list, because it's a really interesting condition, to say the least.
Yeah, this is there is a phenomenon called myiasis. If you look it up on Wikipedia, you're going to see it when insects use the human body as an intermediate, or they just live in the human body. 4 people say we have Morgellons, and they're passing this ropeworms. An interesting story is that the first DNA test that we sequenced the cytochrome oxidase gene, it matched 99% to the human pseudogene, and it matched 98% to the seed bug, or Simonidus notabilis.
Wow.
And the only reason I paid attention to it is because Gubarev, in private communication, he told me this story that he collected the samples and he photographed everything. So one time in St. Petersburg, Russia, in the spring, he saw this weird-looking fly with transparent wings. And, it kind of struck me that this happened. And I told him that I never experienced anything like this. I tried to repeat this by keeping these fecal stones in a container, but I've never seen the seed bug directly on the fecal stones. I do have the seed bugs flying in my house, though.
Oh, really?
So this is a tropical bug that eats grains, and it's interesting that the sequence that was submitted to GenBank is actually coming from the Smithsonian Institution. So there is a possibility that the sample was contaminated, and when I asked the person if it was the case, he said it is possible. But there is, again, one of these bizarre connections with insects. I should tell you this, that some of the DNA sequences, they did not just match the human and bacteria DNA. There's some DNA that also matches insects. But, this connection with Morgellons.
Yeah, and with Lyme too. I mean, I've even heard
with Lyme.
Yeah, I've even heard with
autism and with mitochondria. And with life expectancy.
Yeah, and I've even heard with rheumatoid arthritis, and there's some people think there's
arthritis. I have my own theories about that. That you could probably change with a diet. You stop eating animal protein, and you stop accumulating uric acid in your joints, and maybe that will go away.
Yeah.
But who knows? That's
Yeah,
It's
it's a lot
amazing.
going on, isn't there?
Gosh, well, thank you for spending so much time with us. I asked if you were willing and able to go a little bit over, and we've almost gone in a full extra hour, so thank you so much.
Gracious, thank you.
I'm sorry that maybe I raised more questions that I provided the answers.
No, this is just amazing. So will you be able to send me any of the links that you would like to be put on this show page for people to learn more about a lot of the things you talked about? Do you have a bunch of links you could send over?
Sure. I guess the first two would be the two papers that I published.
Okay.
People have to realize that these are not scientific papers, that I did submit them to professional medical journals, but they were not accepted there.
Okay.
Because they needed more proof to substantiate the claims that are made in these papers.
Okay.
And yes, I'll send you more links.
Oh, that's great.
There's another radio show on One Radio Network that's available. It's out in the open that I'll send you the link to, and also there's another one on Donna Gates' show.
Great.
So she's the one who contacted me about this, and she wrote another book where she wanted to address this in one of the chapters, because her approach was from this colonics and cleansing, and there are a whole bunch of videos of those colonic sessions.
Wow. Well, we're going to have her on tomorrow.
She's tomorrow.
We'll talk about that. That's just incredible.
So this is, everybody seems to expel this, and probably this is at the tipping point where the scientific community should probably do something about it and start to study this more closely.
Yes, I agree. And so thank you so much, Dr. Volinsky, for being on the show. Really appreciate
You're
your time
welcome,
today.
Justin and Kate. Thank
you so much.
Thank you. And for those that are listening live, we're going to be signing off the live channel now, and we will catch you on the next episode. If you'd like to hear what Kate and I have to say about this interview, you can check out the podcast, which is episode number 203. And we're going to sign off now, and we'll catch you again soon. Okay, Professor Volinsky, are you still there?
Yeah, I am.
Excellent.
Great.
Okay, we just went off the live show. So, again, thank you so much.
Fascinating.
You're welcome. This is, a result of this journey. I gained my health back, my body back, and there's definitely this gut-mind connection, and you think more clearly, and
Yeah, it's amazing.
This is a path of self-cleaning and rejuvenation. That's what it is.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I'm encouraged.
So maybe we can talk with you again one day, and I'm sure you're going to do lots of experimentation on yourself, so that would be fun to talk about if you're interested in that.
Sure,
that'd be wonderful.
That's the route that's the path I'm on.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. I will send you the link to this show page as soon as we get it posted. Most likely tomorrow, I would say, but I'll send you the link to this podcast so you can post it wherever you like.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Professor.
Bye, guys.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, if that's not enough to make you want to get rid of parasites in your body, I don't know what is.
I think what makes me want to get rid of them the most is that hellmouth worm picture you posted on Facebook this morning.
Oh, did you see that?
Oh, man, alive.
Yeah, that was...
That creature's attached to your intestinal wall paints a whole other picture about what's going on
Yeah, that
there,
thing was
doesn't it?
pretty crazy, wasn't it?
Pretty wild.
Could you imagine that thing attaching to your... Well, no wonder why there's blood if it attaches like that.
Ah.
You know, oh, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead. You go.
No, I didn't ask him. I wish I put this on my list. I did put it on my list, but I just forgot to ask him about animals, and people that have pets are more susceptible to, as Maggie's about ready to bark,
yawning in my face and burping.
Yeah.
You have some parasites, I'm sure, Maggie. What's interesting is realizing when you're really in tune with your body, like I feel like I've become way more so in the past year even. A few years leading up to that, but the last year has been really, I'd say, the turning point for me. When I've really reconnected to what it's like to feel things in your body. People think, the average person that you come across thinks you're crazy when you say things like, oh, my liver hurts today, or I feel like there's worms in my body just ringing or like moving, or something in my organs doesn't feel right.
People can't even feel their organs.
People can't even feel their organs. And I feel like I'm so in tune that I know, I don't know everything, but I feel like people shouldn't look at you so cross-eyed. If you were to just hear a show like that, what we just did with Professor Alex Volinsky, when you say things like that and you really feel like you're in touch with your body, I don't think they sound so crazy anymore.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I mean, I know I have had issues with my stomach and parasites and worms and things like that. And sure enough, I've expelled so many that I've even written a blog post on that you can find on our, under Kate's blog on our website. But my gosh, when you have an inkling, if you're not listening to your body, it's kind of like I was listening to a podcast the other day with Lissa Rankin, MD. Mm-hmm. She's new in my life and I love her, but she was mentioning how your body, will whisper to you and eventually it will start yelling, it will start screaming. And that's when I feel like personally, I have felt so many of those, worm-like situations or things, that I'm feeling so intense because I am feeling them. I'm feeling them because my body's trying to get my attention.
And the scary thing is it's a catch-22 because you're at the same time that you're able to feel more, you're also able to, which is a good thing, but you're also able to feel any pain or sensitivities.
Right.
And that's part of the problem, or I should say challenge that we have, is that we can feel we're very, very sensitive to the things we eat now.
Yes.
And we can start, you eat the one wrong thing or at the wrong time and you can really feel it. But it's crazy. I mean, like I never was able to feel my liver before or...
And you've had experiences like that recently.
Yeah, I could feel my liver or I could feel, a gallbladder and... it's crazy how you're able to do that.
Or I can start to feel a sinus pressure coming on or a headache, and I'm able to, a lot of the time, stave it off, and I don't go that route, anymore.
Yeah, it's. I was going to ask him,
pretty fascinating.
Too. A lot of people have said that, a lot of people that say you shouldn't walk bare feet, they say that, a lot of these, I think they're hookworms.
You're picking up through the bottom of your sole of your feet.
Yeah, from the soils, I guess, in the grasses, but...
Yeah.
I'm not sure, if you're energetically, healthy and strong and vibrant. I imagine that these types of worms are just going after weakened immune systems and weakened people that are,
right. They're picking off the weak links.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's true with anything with our immune system. If it's broken down enough, you're going to be a great host for a myriad of problems.
Yeah, parasites and all kinds of stuff.
Sure. I do find it interesting, though, that it seems to be for every talk we have with anyone on our show, it's almost what you believe to be true or untrue is going to majorly affect your progress or anti-progress of a specific condition. I mean, I really do think that.
It's all belief, isn't it?
It seems to be. Yeah. It seems to be. It's changing my world, that's for sure.
I thought one of the great things that he was saying, I think one of the take-homes from this was the idea that we shouldn't, cut, burn, and poison these things like we do with cancer. Mm-hmm. And
the fighting is the
disease.
The disease in general.
If you see war out in the world or war within your body, then you have war inside yourself somehow,
Well, and he was saying, I mean, if you're going to fight it with war, it's going to fight you back with war. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's going to help the situation to attack things, fight things, tell them you're going to kill them. I mean, I'm guilty of that. When I talk about the things I've seen coming on my coffee enemas, I've used words like that.
Or the war on cancer.
Sure.
It's in our language.
Fight against this, that, and the other.
We have a parasitic language, don't we?
We do. That's the problem.
Yeah,
that is so true.
Yeah, I think it's important to assist these things to move on to brighter pastures.
That is a great way to say that.
Rather than kill them,
Sometimes I want to assist my whole body to get a body transplant because it's too much effort. But no, I completely agree.
I mean, it's difficult because when you get an X-ray or biopsy of a cancerous tumor or a 3-foot-long ropeworm, how do you not look at that and say, I want to kill that thing, I want to get it out of my life? But like he was saying, perhaps it's there for a reason.
Sure.
And it's there to teach you something. Whether it's a tumor or it's a ropeworm,
Absolutely.
It's there to teach you something as to how it got there and why it's energetically allowed to stay in your body.
And he was bringing up a good point. I mean, that we already know, but, spiritually, you could have something going on that's allowing it to exist in your body.
Yeah.
And, you might do everything. You might do all those protocols that were, suggested and that we can read more about doing. But if something is not willing to leave your body, it brings up a whole different question of why we're allowing it to stay in there.
A whole different can of worms.
Whole different can of...
Huh?
Of ropeworms.
Whole different can of ringworms.
Yes, ringworm.
So thank you everyone for joining us. This was episode number 203. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I know it was long. We kind of just skipped over the second commercial because I didn't want to break his his flow. And I just thought that, the commercials are important for us, but we were going to run an ad for the sauna because we were talking about the sauna, but I just felt like it was more important to get this information out. So if you do have any questions about that sauna that we sell in our store, please, let me know. It's an incredible thing, and we sell lots of them because they're so great, and people write in all the time how much they like it. So if you have any questions about that sauna, just let me know. I just wanted to keep the show going. That was just a special show. So
yeah, I agree.
Dr. Alex Volinsky, and we'll have links to his websites and all the different things, the Implantorama and the Chronic Disease Research Foundation that he talked about, as well as his YouTube channel, all that stuff on episode 203. And if you have any comments about this show, you can post them there. But even better would be if you wanted to continue the discussion in our forum. Mm-hmm. We have a whole section on cleansing and detoxification. And I'm going to try to get the actual protocol and try to nail down what exactly, how you do it, how often you do it, what the ratios are of the solutions, what to eat before, how cold or warm to make the water. All of that stuff. I mean, it's really detailed. So I'll work with him and try to see if there's a way I can get that paper from the fellow he mentioned,
Dr. Gubaroff,
I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we'll work on that. We'll post everything on this show page, which is episode 203. And this actually is a good segue to go into Donna Gates tomorrow morning.
Oh, I couldn't be any more apropos, could it?
Yeah, digestion and...
Yes, it's our digestive week.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So, yeah, that's about it, right?
It should be our heart week with Valentine's on Friday, but...
Oh, that's right, huh?
I'm going to go with digestion because if you don't have a healthy digestion, you don't have anything.
You don't have a heart.
You don't have a heart.
or you have parasites in you.
Right.
So, thanks everyone for joining us, and I don't think there's anything else to...
I think what's left to do is go make a smoothie.
That's right.
I'm going to go do it.
That is right. And Pet Maggie, what's she doing right now?
She's in a little bundle by my feet.
Is she?
Yeah.
She all curled up?
She's happy.
I feel like we've got some parasites from her, but we'll
get to the bottom
of that. Yeah, so it's time to go make a smoothie, right?
Let's do it.
Okay, thanks everybody for joining us. We will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even as you educate yourself in the field of live food nutrition and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers or listeners medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis.